There's stains in the back of your
correctness is a cancer.
bloomers in full view of the whole world. Don't be that guy. That's not cool. Yeah. Sorry, I had to go there. But anyway, so I've been having interesting conversations, and I'll answer most of what kind of feedback we get, or I'll take it to thought. So we definitely appreciate it, especially you guys that are from out of the country. Tell us your views. Email us, and what is the email address, sir?
That's rcancel41@gmail.com. That's the letter R. Cancel, spelled like cancel, like to cancel a check. CANCEL 41@gmail.com.
And for our local listeners, we have the call-in and we have the chat. So feel free to send us your thoughts.
Right. If you're listening live on Spreaker, just like Apocalypse here with his first message here. Thanks again for that. If you're listening live, you can send us a chat message.
You're famous now, dude.
Questions. If you have any questions or statements or some more Hell Satans, go ahead and send them our way via instant message. You can also call us now. We do have a call-in line for questions or comments, also for call-in guests as well. That number to call the show is 754-999-0468. Again, that's 754-999-0468. Don't bother calling in now. Leaving the line open for our call-in guest, Vince, from the Vindicated Show.
Excellent.
So we won't be taking calls today, but next episode, next week, Sunday, we'll love to hear from you and get some feedback from our guests.
And how does the chat icon work?
So if you're listening live, whether it's on a device of some kind of mobile device or from your PC or laptop, if you're listening live, there should be a little icon there, just a simple bubble message for instant message there, a bubble icon. So you can just click on that and type in a message, and we'll get that immediately, and we'll be happy to read your comments or statements live on air, and we may or may not respond with either a well thought out answer or just nonsense, depending on the message, like Hail Satin. Anyway, moving right along.
No, Satan's pretty an interesting topic. Since we're already there, he made me a lot of promises, but he didn't keep any of them. So I've got a major beef with him.
With Satan?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as do most of us, I would imagine. Hopefully, if you're sane. On that note, I think it's about time for a public service announcements. There you go.
Before we get going, I want to talk a little bit about some experiences I had over the weekend. This weekend, I volunteered at one of the quarantine clinics that is popping up, where people who have been infected with the new Taylor Swift song "Shake It Off" are being observed and kept out of the general population. The first thing I want to say is there is no reason to stigmatize or reject these people. There's no reason to be afraid of these people. There's no reason to treat these people differently than you're treating anyone else. They can't help that they got infected with this terrible sonic parasite called Shake It Off. It's a very interesting form of parasite because it's in the history of science. It's the very first time that a parasite has transformed into music. This has never happened before. Hopefully it will never happen again. Also, let me make sure that you guys understand that I'm not trying to be a fearmonger here. I'm not trying to scare you guys with what I'm about to say. It's just that I spent the weekend watching people in varying stages of this brand new disease, and it was one of the most terrifying, scary things that I've ever seen in my life. And that doesn't mean you should be afraid. It just means that you need to do what you can do to protect your family and your friends and yourself from listening to this song, which once it gets into your head, that's it. It's got a 80% chance of never leaving your consciousness, according to the CDC. They say that 80% of the people who come into contact with Taylor Swift's song "Shake It Off" will spend the rest of their lives hearing the chorus of that song over and over and over again. And these folks that I saw who are currently in quarantine, I've never seen people so desperate. I saw a man use his car keys and try to scoop his temple out. He took his keys and just started cutting into his head, right above his eye, and nearly smashed through his skull. He was screaming that he would do anything to stop the song. They had to restrain him, put him into a straitjacket. It was a horrible thing to watch. I saw someone jam a chopstick into their eyeball to try to lobotomize themselves. Another person desperately trying to stop the song. But every single doctor that I have talked to has said that there is no way that you could physically cut this song out of your head. Once you hear it, it's there forever. So, all I'm saying is, whatever you do, if you go out into public, just put in earplugs. Don't go to places where there is even the slightest chance of hearing that song. If you're driving, keep your windows completely rolled up and play loud music so that you can't hear anything outside of your car. This is all coming from the CDC. These are the only ways that we know right now to keep ourselves from being infected with this song. Do not go into any public mall. Do not get around teenagers. Do not get around high schools. Do not get around anyone who has ever told you that they like Taylor Swift or they enjoy her music. They're doing studies on Taylor Swift fans, and they've actually found that these people have embedded into their neocortex a very small mollusk-like creature. It looks like a coiled up elf penis. It's got tiny barbs that inject this neurotoxin into the human brain, and it somehow creates the acceptance of Taylor Swift's music, and it allows people to like it. It's been compared to the toxoplasmosis virus, which, as many of you know, when a mouse inhales the toxoplasmosis virus, which can be found on cat shit, then the mouse is no longer afraid of cats, which creates a kind of evolutionary advantage for the cat. In the same way, many people who have come into contact with the vomit and diarrhea of teenagers at Six Flags have inhaled this terrible parasite, and it is embedded into their brain and makes them into Taylor Swift fans. You guys can find all this stuff on the CDC's website. I'm only talking about it because I spent an entire weekend watching people desperately trying to rip their own ears off, begging to be shot. I saw a man throw himself in front of a bus. I saw 3 suicides, 5 attempted suicides, and countless cases of self-mutilation as an entire clinic filled with people who can't get the Taylor Swift song Shake It Off out of their head did everything they could to either end their lives or to knock themselves out or to make themselves go deaf. If you've been infected, immediately report to one of the nearest quarantine clinics. There is nothing that you can do by yourself. Go seek help. They will sedate you, they will restrain you, and hopefully over the next few months we will discover a way to erase the song from the minds of those people who have come into contact with it. Again, if you're going to go into public, wear earplugs. You can wear a full helmet filled with toilet paper. And in the extreme cases, if you really want to avoid being infected by the Taylor Swift song Shake It Off, then you can actually go to a doctor and have them remove your all the bones in your inner ear, which will make you deaf for the rest of your life, but some people are saying is preferable to hearing that song. So be safe, stay optimistic, but be smart. Avoid exposure to that song. Keep America safe. Keep this the best country on earth. Support the troops and do everything you can to keep things green. All right, guys, we're going to dive right into
All right. So that was Duncan Trussell there from the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. Just a funny skit that I heard the other day. So
that was hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously just playing on. He's playing on 2 things. Obviously, the suckiness of the song itself, but also the fear mongering because of Ebola and things like that. So it's kind of a 2-pronged attack there. So, but that was really funny. If nobody's familiar with Duncan Trussell, he's a stand-up comedian. He's good friends with Joe Rogan. So I've heard him a few times on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast, and then obviously that led me to Duncan Schultz, which you can find him on the Duncan Schultz Family Hour podcast. So I definitely encourage you to check that out because he's a funny guy.
Yeah, it was very entertaining. I've thought about doing some stuff like that, but I'm not so funny. It takes a little time to put that stuff together. I don't know if that's real or not. So we're looking at a couple articles and things to touch base on.
And what's the headline for that article?
It's called "Egypt Hits Obama and Hillary with Massive Criminal Charges," and the article is located at conservativetribune.com, I think. But I haven't looked at it, so I'm not even going to delve into it at this moment.
Okay.
But
that's what I was going to ask if you could read it.
Well, yeah, actually, I can kind of touch on it because it's right here in front of us, so why not? We have another hour and some to go. Egypt charges Obama and Hillary with conspiring with terrorist Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood, who took power in Egypt following the Arab Spring, were recently ousted by the Egyptian military and declared a terrorist organization. Even still, they have been embraced by President Obama, invited into his administration, placed on a hands-off list protecting them, and are even setting up their own political party here in the United States. Unfortunately, the Muslim Brotherhood ultimately seeks to implement Sharia law, and anybody who's not familiar with that, it's worth your time to read it. These are the fundamental differences in philosophies, and if you have any idea what Sharia law is, you will not be supportive of it. Trust me, unless you don't mind being a slave entirely and having your head lopped off your shoulders for wearing the wrong
clothes. When you say different philosophies in between what?
Politically. And, people don't think religion plays a part in politics, or they don't want it to, and they don't realize that everything you believe in internally gets extended out into the policies and the politics anyway. So, there's no way around it. You have to adopt a sound philosophy. If you have no choice. If you think that human life is invaluable because you're, some scientific mind that thinks that we're just a mass of cells that have no significance and no spiritual being, it's very easy to adopt a policy of euthanizing people that don't serve your greater interest.
Well, yes and no, and allow me to play devil's advocate, if you will. But I mean, I don't know if I necessarily believe that. As far as basically, from what I'm gathering, what you're saying is that as far as people adopting a sense of decency, whether it has to do with anything that can be traced back to the Bible and Ten Commandments and things like that. I don't know if necessarily religion specifically in the United States influences that. I think for the most part, people are good and don't want to hurt other people.
Normal
at least
people.
Here, right? But of course, you're going to have your wackos. There's exceptions to every rule, unfortunately, in most cases. But that's the point. Is that I don't know if religion, whether it's Christianity or any other, directly influences the behavior of the majority of people in the country. I think that what I'm saying is that I happen to believe that, at least here in our country, that most people are inherently good. So they wouldn't necessarily just be, even if they were atheists, sort of. But even Satanists that wouldn't necessarily be bad people or committing atrocities of any kind.
Maybe, I don't know. the Satanists that I was exposed to are very interesting people, and I'm not real big on child sacrifice myself.
No, I agree with you 100%, obviously. But I mean, I've known Satanists too, but
I don't think they were real hardcore Satanists. I think they were fashion Satanists. I'm not going to lie to you.
Could be. No, that's a very good point, actually. But from what I've been able to gather, though, is that Satanism, like any other religion, has its denominations.
Yes.
So, and just like with Christianity and Islam and things like that, their own denominations based on interpretation. So you have your extremists and your moderates and
absolutely. But Sharia itself is not a very healthy thing to invite here into the United States.
Oh, agreed.
Because you will be put to death by disagreeing with... They don't live and let live. It's not like the United States was, where you had perfect freedom to practice your religion without fear of being murdered by somebody who disagrees. We're so lucky to live in our country. But the Sharia law, I'm not going to bow down to that. Yeah, I'm
absolutely. And that's all my point was, because I just wanted to make it clear that, at least as far as I'm concerned, that I know personally that I just don't want to make a blanket denunciation of Islam as a whole.
Oh,
just kind of illustrate and drive home the point that
this is the Muslim Brotherhood we're talking about.
Right, specifically
their philosophy. Absolutely,
right.
because I mean, obviously, if every person with an Islamic background wanted Sharia law, they wouldn't move to the United States. They actually